Check this out. There are undoubtedly multitudes of cases of people who have had or have been diagnosed with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and they have overcome them. They made the changes necessary to overcome the stuff so that they don't need medication anymore. Their body works the way it's supposed to work. So, but yet we see those ailments, those diseases as lifelong things. What I believe is that a lot of those people who actually overcome high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, these are people who didn't lock into that whole belief that, hey, I'm going to be taking medication the rest of my life. They didn't lock into that. They were like, no, I'm not identifying with that. Hey, what's going on, y'all? So I've actually tried to record this a couple of times, but I didn't really say what I wanted to say. So we're going to get this thing right because I really want you to understand this. Change your identity. And specifically, I want you to start to see yourself as being the healthy person you desire to be. And the reason why I say that is because I know for a fact that a lot of us out here are not doing that. In fact, we're doing the negative. We are seeing ourselves as the people that we do not want to be. We're kind of consciously or unconsciously identifying ourselves with whatever unhealthy state that we're in that we don't want. And what happens is when you do that, I think the symptom of that is that you see, accomplishing your goal as difficult. Okay. And just indulge me for a bit. And I know this is true, because I experience it in areas of my life. And I'll hear other people kind of talking about how their experience with whatever it is I'm dealing with is easy. So it always kind of brings into question, okay, so if it's easy for this person, what is it that makes it easy for them? This is what I want to ask y'all, man. What kind of stuff are you saying to yourself when nobody's around? Or even when you are around people, but you're kind of having that, internal chatter inside of your head. When you look in the mirror, you know, all that kind of stuff. What kind of people are you hanging around, and what kind of stuff are they saying to you? What kind of nicknames do you have? For people who are dealing with weight issues, if people call you big girl, you probably even call yourself that, or big boy, or fluffy, or different kind of things like that. Like, what are you identifying with? From people, what people have told you, and what you're telling yourself. What kind of places do you go? Are you going habitually going to places that are very much against where it is you actually want to be in your health? Okay, and I know there's a little bit more to that, but just kind of indulge me for a second. So one thing that I really admired about Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant, is that apparently, I mean, everybody talks about his work ethic. Like he had like an amazing work ethic. He actually really and truly wanted to win. It was not enough for him to just get into the NBA. He wanted to be a champion. And so he made it his goal to identify himself with that. And he identified himself with that so much that there were things that he did, there were things that he didn't do. So this is where you kind of see where that whole identification shapes who you are and helps you to actually get where you're wanting to get. So like one thing I know that Kobe Bryant did was he used visualization to see himself making all these shots. He would sit and just kind of even just imagine himself making the shots. So like he's seeing himself as being a person making the jump shot in this situation, that situation, all this kind of stuff. He's seeing himself do that. Another thing that I read in this book that my wife bought for me, about his career, like he wasn't out, doing all the partying that a lot of his teammates were doing. He stayed in the gym. He always found some sort of way. He was so locked in because he identified with being a champion. Okay. And whenever everybody else was asleep, he also was in the gym then. Whenever a game was over, he was in the gym. So you see, when you really identify with wherever it is you're trying to go, you act differently. You think differently. And what I'm saying is a lot of you are out here, and let me not say a lot of you, I say a lot of us are out here wanting to lose the weight, wanting to get off of the medication. But we're like still not really seeing ourselves as reaching that. And that's where that lack of tenacity and ultimately really is a lack of belief. It's like we have hope, but we don't really have faith. Hope is kind of like, yeah, I really want that. Faith is like, I have it. I have it. And I'm not taking no for an answer. One thing about some of the lifestyle diseases like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, check this out. Check this out. There are undoubtedly multitudes of cases of people who have had or have been diagnosed with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and they have overcome them. Medical industry doesn't really like to say that they're cured. They have their own reasons for that, but they made the changes necessary to overcome the stuff so that they don't need medication anymore. Their body works the way it's supposed to work. So, but yet we see those ailments, those diseases as lifelong things. So, what I believe is that a lot of those people who actually overcome high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, these are people who didn't lock into that whole belief that, hey, I'm going to be taking medication the rest of my life. They didn't lock into that. They were like, no, I'm not identifying with that. You see what I'm saying? Whereas other people will identify with that and be like, I just manage it. That's the term that we use. I just manage it. I just do my best and just kind of manage it. But I'm gonna be on this for the rest of my life. I think about that. I have a coworker who was like that and just very, very much just kind of grabbing on to that whole diabetes thing. But I know, but then I know other people who have overcome it. So what I want to challenge you and me to do is do whatever you have to do to identify with where it is you want to go in your health. Whatever you have to do, even if it seems weird to you, it seems weird to other people. Because you know what? It's going to. Because you are used to thinking a certain way. The people around you are used to they're used to you thinking a certain way. So it's going to feel weird to you. It's going to be weird to them. But like, if you really, really want it, you need to start grabbing onto that thing by identifying yourself with that person that you want to be in your health. Imagine yourself, with the body that you desire. Okay. Even if you don't see it physically yet. The one thing that some people do is they'll get like a picture of themselves, take the head off of their picture and put it onto like a body of someone who kind of has like a physique that kind of is like where they want to go, and look at that, like put in their bathroom or wherever, just to kind of remind themselves of where they're going. Change your environment. That might mean you start going to the gym or you start going to the park. That will definitely mean, of course, that you start avoiding certain kind of food establishments, that you maybe start going places where they cook vegetables, you know, or things like that. You know, Change the people you're around. I'm not saying that, you just kind of just totally just avoid, get away from your friends, but you might need to be away from them um a lot more often though. If they're kind of like still kind of affirming negatively where you were, you don't need to hear that, because thoughts, those things produce thoughts which really and truly are seeds, that will even kind of work in the background in your head, man. And so you don't really have time for that if you're headed somewhere in your health. And so you really have to start seeing, we have to start seeing ourselves that way. I have some goals that I want to reach physically. I'm in the process of gaining a bit more muscle, especially my arms and stuff like that. And I have to stop identifying myself with one, who has a hard time gaining muscle and stuff like that. So like I think the reason why it's so important to identify yourself a certain way is because if you don't, I believe you always hold on to these alternative thoughts in your head. Like, I'm gonna do this, but I know it usually doesn't work, or similar kind of things. And what happens is, it's like that stuff is always like a little hindrance on the inside of you that keeps you probably from going all the way, or it keeps you kind of like, it kind of gives you kind of like something to fall back on. Yep, see, I knew this wasn't going to work. But when you start to identify yourself a certain way, there's a certain attitude that comes with that. There's a certain kind of tenacity that comes with that, where you no longer take no for an answer. Just remember, like, just to want something, that's part of it, but it's not enough, because plenty of people want to lose weight. Plenty of people want to get off of different kind of medications and whatnot. So that's part of it, but it can't be it. So you have to be that person, because guess what? When you actually identify with being a certain way, in other words, when you start to see yourself as being that person, you start to do the things that that kind of person does. Okay, Kobe could have wanted to be a champion, but if he did not actually identify with champion type people, then he would not have, you know, he would have held back. He would have just been just doing what everybody else was doing, and just always kind of, man, I just really, really wish that I did that or whatever. But it's like him identifying with that caused him to take certain kind of actions. Okay. And so you kind of start to have a power to overcome all that negative thinking that kind of keeps you away from being who you want to be, being who you should be. So that's all I have, y'all. Identify with where you desire to be in your health. Have a good one. If you like this content, you might also be interested in one of my books. Learn how you can take steps literally today to successfully manage, control, and overcome common issues such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and belly fat. It's all about putting power back in your hands to improve your own health. Get your book copy today by the links in the description or by visiting SeanMcClendon.com/books. Also, don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe, and join my email list at SeanMcClendon.com/subscribe.